A mocking teacher thrust a violin into her hands before the entire class, betting she'd falter. What she did next silenced the room and left him speechless. Starting at a new school at 15 twisted your gut like it couldn't hold you together. Lila Carter felt it the moment she stepped off the bus in Bakersfield, California, gripping her backpack strap like it was her only anchor. Southridge Middle School wasn't glamorous, but it carried that sun-scorched California vibe, dust coating the brick walls. The school had that baked-in heat, like the pavement itself was sweating. The office hummed with soft voices and the occasional beep of a scanner. Nobody glanced up as Lila walked in, just another new kid. She stood patiently while the secretary handed her a schedule, no chit-chat, just paper sliding across the counter with a curt, "Lockers are down, C Hall." Her mom's advice echoed, "Keep your head low, sweetheart. You're here to study, not to show off." That was Lila's plan. Stay quiet, stay focused. Lila aimed for no trouble, just good grades, her music, and surviving the year. But her quietness drew eyes more than words would. By lunch, whispers had given her names. Fiddle Girl, Silent One, New Kid with the Big Eyes. She overheard them as she passed, but shrugged it off. What mattered was room 117, her orchestra class, the last period. Lila wasn't just skilled with the violin, she was phenomenal, though no one knew yet. She kept that secret tucked away, safe. Her violin bow wasn't just an object. It was her late grandma's final gift, given when her mom juggled double shifts. Holding it steadied Lila's soul. In room 117, kids chattered, tuning instruments, the noise grating her nerves. The teacher, Mr. Grayson, stood up front, scribbling on the whiteboard. His ill-fitting navy blazer and fake confidence marked his voice. He turned, announcing, "We've got a new student," like Lila was furniture. She nodded quietly, took a back seat, and set her case down, unnoticed by most. Mr. Grayson barely acknowledged her, just scanned the room with a faint scowl. Lila sat in the back, her violin case by her feet, while curious glances faded as kids returned to their gossip. Over the next 2 weeks, she found her rhythm, playing softly in group rehearsals, avoiding attention. But her precision stood out. Her sheet music was pristine, marked in pencil, her posture flawless. Some classmates noticed she was holding back, whispering about her skill. But Lila stayed guarded, her talent still hidden. She didn't flaunt her ability, but her quiet confidence irked Mr. Grayson. Maybe it was her lack of questions or how she didn't curry favor like his pets. The tension simmered, like he was waiting to pounce. By week 3, Lila knew every hallway at Southridge. Sticky lockers, lenient teachers, kids masking insecurity with noise. She moved silently, earbuds around her neck, sketchbook under her arm, her worn violin case with LC etched faintly on the handle, always close by. During tuning, a girl named Kaylee leaned over. "You outplay Grayson's favorites without even trying," she said. Lila gave a shy smile, adjusting her rosine. Mr. Grayson's irritation grew, though. His sharp tone carried weight, making kids sit straighter, not from respect, but to avoid his bite. He'd taught orchestra for years. Some said he'd once been a real musician, maybe toured. But the stories weren't fond. They hinted at a man who'd peaked early and never moved on, his pride all that remained. Grayson had clear favorites, kids from families who donated or showed up to every concert. The rest, like Lila, were background noise. She liked it that way, staying invisible. But one Tuesday, during a Vivaldi rehearsal, Grayson was in a mood. A viola player forgot their music and he snapped, tossing a copy on their stand with a biting, "Don't waste our time." Lila watched from her corner. Then, without warning, his eyes locked on her. "Carter, he said sharply. "Let's hear you." Lila's fingers paused on her bow. "You've been too quiet," Grayson said, smirking. Some kids giggled, others froze. "Time to show us what you've got." Her chest tightened. Not fear, but something else. She wasn't ready to solo, not here, not like this. Still, she stood, lifting her violin. "Great," Grayson said with a sarcastic wave. "Show us some magic." The word dripped with mockery, daring her to flop. Lila didn't react. She raised her violin, closed her eyes, and took a breath. Before she could play, Grayson added, "Don't worry, we won't judge too hard." Snickers followed, sharp and stinging. Lila opened her eyes, ignoring the laughs. She played one note, then another. A slow, aching melody, unfamiliar to most. It wasn't flashy, just perfect, flowing, alive. Her bow moved like it had a mind of its own. The room shifted. Even Grayson's smirk faltered. His arms crossed tighter, his jaw clenched, like he was wrestling thoughts. Who taught her that? Who does she think she is? Lila kept playing, each note lifting the room higher. No one spoke, not even Grayson's favorites. When she stopped, the silence pressed against the walls. She lowered her violin and sat, calm as ever. Grayson said nothing. A kid in the back whispered, "Whoa." The air felt different, charged. Lila acted like it was nothing, but something had cracked open. The next day, the room buzzed with a new energy, like everyone was waiting for the next chapter to unfold. Kids stole glances at Lila, whispering behind notebooks. Even those who'd ignored her before now stared. She walked in, earbuds dangling, violin case in hand, and took her usual seat, avoiding eyes. Grayson was at the whiteboard, scribbling, ignoring her completely. Lila preferred it. No praise, no spotlight. But Grayson wasn't one to let quiet linger. Mid-class, he clapped sharply. "Let's mix things up," he said. "Solo rotation, cold play, no music. We'll start in the back." His eyes landed on Lila. "Carter, you're up." It wasn't a request. Lila paused, not from nerves, but because she saw the game. This wasn't about music, it was about control, about putting her on display again. She opened her case slowly, hands steady from years of practice in her tiny apartment, fan whirring in the background. Standing, she lifted her violin. Grayson chuckled just loud enough. "Let's hope yesterday wasn't a fluke." Nervous laughs followed. Some kids looked away, others stared, waiting to see if she'd crack under pressure. Lila didn't blink. She played, and it was more than notes, it was a statement. She picked a fierce, intricate piece by Bartók, nothing simple or safe. Her bow slashed the air, notes sharp and fearless. The room stilled. Grayson took a step back. She played for maybe 25 seconds, then stopped. The silence was heavy, like the walls were holding their breath. Grayson's smile was thin, forced. "Not bad," he said, voice tight, "for someone who doesn't scream prodigy." The air shifted. No one laughed. Even Grayson's loyalists looked stunned. A boy, up front, glanced from him to Lila, shocked. Lila stared at Grayson, eyes calm but piercing. She didn't cry or storm out, just held his gaze. He moved on quickly. "All right, Ethan, you're next." Ethan fumbled, hands shaky. Kaylee whispered, "That was wrong." Lila sat, her violin on her lap, fingers gripping the bow. Her heartbeat was steady, loud, like it was counting the seconds until something broke. That afternoon, Lila skipped her next class. She went to the counselor's office, not to snitch, she didn't mention Grayson, but to ask about music programs outside school. The counselor, Ms. Clara Holt, tilted her head. "You're the one who played yesterday, right?" Lila nodded hesitantly. "You stirred up the music department. Teachers were asking about you." Lila looked down. I just want to play without it becoming a thing." Miss Holt studied her, then handed her a flyer for a local youth music group. The flyer was for a Saturday morning program downtown. "They don't care about your background," Ms. Holt said, "just your music." Lila took it and left without much talk. But schools are small, and whispers spread fast. By Wednesday, the story had legs, moving through hallways and lunch tables. Kids who'd never spoken to Lila now nodded at her. Teachers' glances lingered. Not dismissive anymore, but curious, like they were piecing together the girl they'd overlooked. Grayson, though, acted like nothing had happened. He kept his routine, dry humor, sharp jabs, stiff posture like pride was his spine. But kids weren't laughing as much. They watched him, and they watched Lila. Friday's orchestra class felt heavy with unspoken tension. Lila considered ditching but showed up, taking her back seat, her violin case against her leg. The room was quieter than usual, kids sitting straighter, waiting. Grayson cleared his throat. "Before we start, I want one student to show us her real potential." His eyes found Lila. "Carter," he said, nodding like it was a favor. "Play something of your choice." Every head turned. Lila stood, violin in hand, stepping forward. "No pressure," Grayson added, smirking. "We're just curious about your training." She knew his game. Make her fail or shine so bright he'd look small. Lila ignored him, picturing her grandma's cramped living room, the radio's hum, her small hands aching from practice. She closed her eyes and played, not soft, not safe, but a blazing Prokofiev piece, fierce and unforgiving. Her fingers flew, the tempo climbing, the room fading note by note. She didn't glance at Grayson or the class, just played. The air changed, like time itself paused. When she finished, she lowered her violin, exhaled, and stood still. The silence wasn't empty, it was heavy with awe. Grayson opened his mouth, but no words came. Lila returned to her seat. No fuss, no drama. The quiet said it all. Something undeniable had happened, and everyone felt it. After class, a cello kid caught her in the hall. "That was unreal," he said, voice hushed, like it was too big to say loud. Lila nodded. "Thanks." Kaylee jogged up. Grayson looked like he ate a wasp. They laughed, soft and real. "You doing the spring concert?" Kaylee asked. "Maybe," Lila said. Grayson wasn't done, though. He'd fight back in his own way, and Lila sensed it. The next week started heavy, like the school was bracing for something no one could name. By Thursday, the whispers had grown louder, spilling through the cafeteria, hallways, and even classrooms far from music lessons. Teachers stayed quiet, but their glances at Lila shifted, less indifferent, more intrigued, like they were connecting rumors to the girl they'd barely noticed. Mr. Grayson kept his routine, tossing dry quips and sharp remarks, his posture rigid with pride. But the students' laughs were thinner now. They watched him closely, and they watched Lila, waiting for the next move in a story no one could predict. Friday's orchestra class felt like a held breath. Lila almost skipped, her steps slowing near the office, but she turned back. She wasn't scared, just tired of Grayson's games twisting her music into a battle. Still, she entered room 117, took her back seat, violin case by her leg. The room buzzed with tension. Even the usual troublemakers sat straighter, eyes darting. Grayson cleared his throat. Before rehearsal, one student gets to prove herself. He nodded at Lila like it was a gift. "Carter, show us your best." Every eye locked on her. Lila stood, violin in hand, stepping forward slowly. "No pressure," Grayson said, his smile sharp. "We just want to see your training." She knew his trap, fail publicly or shine so bright he'd look small. Lila ignored him, picturing her grandma's tiny apartment, the radio's hum, her fingers sore from scales. She closed her eyes and played, not soft, not safe, but a searing Shostakovich piece, fierce and precise. Her bow danced, each note a defiance of his doubt. Her fingers flew, the tempo soaring, the room dissolving note by note. Lila didn't glance at Grayson or her classmates. She just played. The air shifted, heavy with stillness, like time paused to listen. When she stopped, she lowered her violin, exhaled, and stood calm. The silence was thick, not empty, but full of awe. Grayson's mouth twitched, but no words came. Lila walked back to her seat, no drama, no fuss. The quiet screamed what words couldn't. She'd change the room forever. After class, a viola player caught her in the hall. "That was insane," he said, voice low, like it was too big to shout. Lila nodded. "Thanks." Kaylee jogged up. Grayson's face, like he choked on a lime. They laughed, soft and real. "You joining the spring concert?" Kaylee asked. "Not sure," Lila said. Grayson wasn't done, though. He'd fight back in his twisted way. The next week started heavy, like the school was holding its breath, waiting for something no one could name. Lila kept her rhythm. Head down, backpack slung tight, violin case never far. Her steps felt heavier, not from fear or pride, but from the weight of something big unfolding. By Monday's second period, she was called to the front office. Principal Ellen Carver waited, hands clasped, her warm eyes tired. Another man, Assistant Superintendent Daniel Pierce, sat nearby, suit crisp, skimming a file. "We've had calls," Carver said. "Some praise, some concerns." Lila stayed silent, sensing the storm Grayson had stirred behind her back. Carver leaned forward. "Mr. Grayson claims you disrupted Friday's class, acting performative and disrespectful." Lila blinked, steady. Pierce glanced up. "He says you challenge his authority." Carver shifted. "But 3 students wrote praising your playing. 2 teachers, not even in the room, heard about it fast." Lila exhaled. "I didn't mean disrespect." Carver nodded. "Did he say anything inappropriate?" Lila paused. She could have quoted him, let the system handle it, but she knew the mess it'd spark. "I just want to play," she said softly. "I believe you," Carver said. "You can stay in class and perform if you want. If anything feels off, come to me." Pierce closed his file, stood, and left without a word. Back in orchestra, Grayson changed. He didn't call on Lila, didn't look her way. The tension vanished, replaced by a cold void, like she wasn't there. But the students saw her. They asked questions. "Where'd you learn that?" "Can you teach me?" Even Grayson's favorites drifted, their eyes no longer fixed on him. Thursday brought something odd. At her locker, Miss Clara Holt, the counselor, approached. "Got time after school?" Lila nodded. In the music wing's quiet corner, Holt introduced Miss Vivian Wells, director of the Bakersfield Youth Orchestra. Wells had a performer's grace, her voice warm, eyes sharp. "I heard about you," she said. "They say you play like you've got lightning in your hands." Lila smiled faintly. "We've got a spring showcase spot. You'd be our youngest soloist in years. Join us." Lila hesitated, feeling the weight. "What if school finds out?" Lila asked. Wells grinned. "They will, and they can't touch you." That night, Lila practiced harder than she had in months. Her grandma's bow felt alive, guiding her forward. But Southridge wasn't done with her, and neither was Grayson. By mid-March, the school felt split. Some kids admired Lila. Others whispered, "Show off. She thinks she's above us." She humiliated him. Teachers' reactions varied. Some smiled warmly, others avoided her, like her talent was a problem they couldn't solve. Monday morning, Principal Carver's voice crackled over the intercom, calm but firm. This Friday, we'll hold a student forum in the library after school to discuss fairness and respect in classrooms. It's voluntary. No names, no accusations, but everyone knew. Grayson didn't show up to class that day. A confused sub fumbled through saying Grayson was on personal leave. Students swapped looks but stayed quiet. Lila didn't react, just tuned her violin, head down, her focus on the music, not the drama swirling around her. Lila planned to skip the forum. She hated attention, but Miss Holt caught her Thursday. "Come, even if you don't speak, you should hear it." So she went. The library was packed, students, teachers, some parents. A panel, Carver, Holt, 2 student reps, sat up front. The mic passed. A boy, Lucas, spoke. "Some teachers think quiet means respect, but sometimes we're quiet because we don't feel safe." Kaylee stood. "We saw something unfair in class. We stayed silent. That's on us." Lila listened, hands still, heart loud. The room turned to Lila. Someone asked, "Can the student this is about speak?" She stood, no mic, voice clear. "I didn't want to be a lesson. I came to learn, like you. I didn't ask to be singled out. I played when told. When someone says your talent doesn't belong, it sticks, even if you know better." A parent asked, "Was the teacher prejudiced?" Lila paused. "He made a choice. You saw it. Decide for yourselves." The silence that followed felt like a held breath. After, kids approached Lila quietly, sharing their own stories, other classes, other slights they'd buried. One said, "You didn't let it break you." The next day, a typed note appeared in her locker, unsigned, "Your music showed us what truth sounds like." Ms. Wells confirmed Lila's showcase slot for April 22nd. Meanwhile, Southridge started a review. Not called an investigation, but it was. Teachers were told to rethink classroom practices. Grayson returned a week later, quieter, colder, avoiding Lila like she was a ghost. Lila didn't care about his silence. She wasn't playing for him. She played for the kid in the 4th row who started practicing again, for the teacher who finally saw what she'd missed, for the girl who stopped hiding her music. Her real stage was coming, and it'd speak louder than any classroom. The Bakersfield Civic Center wasn't fancy, but under stage lights it felt massive. The youth orchestra's spring showcase always drew a crowd, but this year, Lila's name was buzzing online, pulling in curious ears. Backstage, Lila waited, heels tapping softly, her open violin case beside her. Her grandma's bow gleamed, polished, ready. Miss Wells stepped in. "You set?" Lila glanced up. "I think so." "You don't need to prove anything. Not to them, not to me, just you." Lila nodded. When her name was called, no cheers, just a hush. The kind that falls when everyone's listening hard. She walked out, posture perfect, fingers loose. The mic caught her bow's soft scrape. Then she played, pure, raw sound. No flashy intro, just music that spoke. Lila played with precision, not stiffness, with feeling, not chaos. Each note wove a story no one knew but all could feel. The auditorium fell silent, not just impressed, but reflective. When she finished, applause didn't come instantly. A half-second pause, then hands clapped, loud, strong, some standing, some wiping tears. Miss Holt stood in the 3rd row, Kaylee too. Backstage, Lila sat, hands trembling. Not nerves, but release. She'd done it, and it was enough. A local music blog raved about her the next day, calling her a prodigy with grit. A small paper picked it up, then a regional newsletter. Nothing huge, but enough to ripple through school. Grayson stayed in his corner. Word was he'd lost a leadership role. No public punishment, just quiet consequences. His classes went on, but the edge was gone, the swagger faded. Some kids noticed, others didn't care. Lila saw it and chose silence, letting her music speak louder than his fading presence. 2 weeks later, Lila was invited to a youth arts panel on representation. At the end, a girl, maybe 11, approached, clutching her mom's hand. "You look like me," she said. "I thought only big names could play like that." Lila crouched. "You just need practice and a spark." That night, on her balcony with her mom, city lights flickering below, her violin sat untouched. "You didn't let it change you," her mom said. Lila nodded. "It changed how I see, but I'm still me." Her mom smiled. "Your grandma would have bawled her eyes out." They laughed, and Lila felt proud, not for outshining anyone, but for making her music louder than doubt, louder than a teacher's barbs, louder than every sideways glance. She didn't fight with words. Her gift was her weapon, and it was enough. If someone tries to box you in, remember, you're not paper. You're everything they never bothered to see. Let your voice echo long after they stop listening. Lila's story spread quietly, not with fanfare but with weight. Kids at school started practicing harder, inspired by her fire. Teachers spoke her name with respect, not rumors. The showcase wasn't just a performance, it was a statement. She'd walked through Grayson's traps and came out stronger, not bitter. Her music wasn't just notes, it was truth, raw and undeniable. And as she looked toward the next stage, she knew. This was only the start of what her violin could say. Lila waited backstage, heels tapping softly, her violin case open beside her. Her grandma's bow shone, polished and sure. Ms. Wells stepped in quietly. "Ready?" Lila glanced up. "I think so." "You're not proving anything to anyone but yourself," Wells said. Lila nodded. When her name echoed, no cheers came, just a deep hush, the kind when everyone leans in to hear. She stepped on stage, posture perfect, fingers light. The mic caught her bow's faint scrape. Then she played, raw, unadorned sound that filled the room. No grand flourish, just music that spoke. Lila played with control, not rigidity, with heart, not chaos. Each note carried a story no one knew, but all felt. The auditorium sank into silence. Not mere awe, but something deeper, reflective. When she finished, applause didn't rush in. A brief pause held, then hands clapped, loud and fierce, some standing, some brushing tears. Miss Holt stood in the third row, Kaylee beside her. Backstage, Lila sat, hands shaking, not from fear, but from the release of everything she'd carried. A local arts blog glowed about her next morning, dubbing her a prodigy with steel. A small paper ran the story, then a regional newsletter. Not viral, but enough to ripple through school. Mr. Grayson kept to his corner. Rumors said he'd lost a leadership role. No loud punishment, just quiet fallout. His classes continued, but the bite was gone, his confidence dimmed. Some kids noticed, others didn't. Lila saw it and said nothing, letting her music outshine his fading shadow. 2 weeks later, Lila joined a youth arts panel on representation. Afterward, an 11-year-old girl, gripping her mom's hand, approached. "You look like me," she said. "I thought only stars played like that." Lila knelt. Just practice and a bit of fire. That night, on her balcony with her mom, city lights twinkling below, her violin rested nearby. "You didn't let it break you," her mom said softly. Lila nodded. "It changed my eyes, not my heart. I'm still me." Her mom grinned. "Your grandma would have sobbed buckets." They laughed, and Lila felt pride. Not for outdoing anyone, but for making her music louder than doubt, louder than Grayson's jabs, louder than every skeptical glance. She didn't argue or shout. Her violin was her voice, and it was enough. If someone tries to cage you, you're not flimsy paper. You're everything they never dared to see. Let your gift ring out long after their ears stop working. Lila's story spread softly, not with fanfare but with weight. Kids at school practiced harder, sparked by her courage. Teachers spoke her name with respect, not gossip. The showcase wasn't just a gig, it was a declaration. She'd walked through Grayson's traps, emerging stronger, not bitter. Her music wasn't just sound, it was truth, fierce and clear. As she eyed her next stage, Lila knew this was only the beginning of what her violin could shout to the world. Her performance lingered, a quiet earthquake. Classmates who'd ignored her now nodded in the halls. A shy kid in orchestra started sharing her own compositions. Even Grayson's favorites began questioning his praise, seeking Lila's advice instead. She didn't gloat, she taught quietly. Her music had cracked open something bigger than one school, one teacher. It reminded everyone, talent doesn't need permission. Lila kept playing, not for applause, but because every note carved her path forward, louder than anyone's attempt to silence her. Lila Carter's story burns like a spark in a dry field, igniting lessons that linger long after the last note fades. At 15, she walked into Southridge Middle School, Bakersfield, California, clutching her violin case, her grandma's bow a steadying weight against a world that tried to box her in. The first lesson crackles through her defiance. Talent speaks louder than doubt. When Mr. Grayson, with his sharp tongue and sharper smirk, thrust her into the spotlight to falter, Lila didn't flinch. In room 117, her bow carved notes from Bartók and Shostakovich, silencing Snickers and his mockery. Each solo wasn't just music, it was a declaration, rising above his taunts and the whispers of show-off in the halls. Her music, played under the Civic Center's soft lights, left the auditorium breathless, proving that skill, honed in a cramped apartment 300 miles from fame, could outshine any attempt to dim it. The second lesson hums in her quiet resilience. Silence can reshape a room, but only if you choose when to break it. Lila kept her head down, earbuds around her neck, dodging drama. Yet, when Grayson's barbs cut deep, calling her talent unfit for prodigy, she didn't shout back. She played, her notes slicing through his control, leaving him wordless. At the student forum, her calm words, "When someone says your talent doesn't belong, it sticks," shifted the air, sparking others to speak. Lila's choice to play, not fight, turned whispers into a chorus of change, inspiring kids to practice harder and teachers to see clearer. Her violin, 16 inches of worn wood, became a voice that echoed beyond Bakersfield, reminding us, "You're not cardboard. Your fire, patient and fierce, can redraw the world's edges." What's a moment when your talent silenced doubt, like Lila Carter's violin stunned her critics? Share your story below, hit that like button, and subscribe to my YouTube channel for more inspiring tales of resilience and passion. Your voice matters, and together we'll uncover stories that spark courage and change. Drop a comment, join the community, and let's keep the fire of truth burning bright.